Hey there, you're listening to the Girls Talking Life podcast, and I'm your host, Johanna. If you're like me, you love time with friends. I always leave feeling encouraged, inspired to try something different, or I've learned something new. So why not continue to grow even when we can't be with our girlfriends? We're not made to do life on our own. So in each episode of this show, I'll bring you a girl and her story to give you refreshing ideas to stir your soul. Let's walk this road together. Are you ready to talk life? Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you chose to spend some time here. If you've been enjoying Girls Talking Life for a while, or if this is your first time listening and you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And then every other Monday, when a new episode is released, it automatically updates for you and you don't have to go looking for it. You can also join the Girls Talking Life newsletter by signing up at girlstalkinglife.com. You'll get an email every time a new episode is released, and it will give you all the show notes and it will tell you anything special that we're doing here. Like I said, this podcast normally releases every other Monday, but last week was the start of a 2-part conversation, and I just couldn't leave you hanging for a whole nother week. Today is the second part of my conversation with Lara. If you didn't catch part 1, be sure to go back and listen so you can be properly introduced to Lori and her story. Just as a reminder, Lori is a 3rd degree black belt in mixed martial arts and the creator of the Strong Girl Self-Defense Program. She teaches girls and women how to protect themselves from dangerous predators looking for a victim to boundary-crashing loved ones so they can live with confidence and peace of mind. Today, we're going to continue our conversation on intuition. Lori talks about being nice versus being safe, and how if our intuition is telling us that something about a situation or a person isn't right, it's okay to walk away even if that seems like a rude thing to do. Lori and I talk about cell phones and how they can be a portal for danger, but she also gives some really good ideas on how they can be used as a tool for safety. She shares conversations that we can have with our kids about social media too. We end with Lori talking directly to anyone who finds themselves in depression or with feelings coming to the surface that they're not sure what to do with. And her main message is that you can heal from anything. Of course, you'll get to hear her favorite 5 too. Here is part 2 of my conversation with Lara. I was telling my mom that I was going to be talking to you, and she reminded me of this story. Several years ago, we were in Atlanta. We were in the city, and we were looking for a specific restaurant. There was some construction, and so we couldn't get there the normal way you should have been able to go. So we were kind of confused, and we were looking for a way around the construction, and a man came up to us, and he said, "Oh, no, that's closed. Come this way. I'll show you a place to eat." And Laura, we walked with him for a block or 2, and my intuition, my gut is going crazy. This is not okay. This is a strange situation. We're going into a part of the city that we weren't familiar with. And I said, okay, we've walked far enough. And I know that I felt awkward saying that, but it was so strange. And my mom was telling me the story and reminding me of the details. And she said, I just felt so dumb. Why did I go along with that? Why wasn't I the one to speak up? And so yes, just being aware of those things and knowing that it's okay to be awkward. And if that gets you out of a dangerous situation, awkwardness is nothing compared to something that could have happened to us that day.
Oh, that's a big amen.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the story of you walking with that man, we all have those stories. I have such a long list of stories of when I did not listen to my intuition. That's why I know that I listen to it now, because I know the price that I paid. On that day, you said that's enough, which eventually your gut so was like, this is enough. And so what did you do?
We just turned around and started walking back. Yeah. And I think he was, saying, oh no, it's okay. Come on. He had more to say, but we just
kept going. You turned around.
We turned around. Yeah.
And the story ended up turning out good. I will say, if we are listening to our intuition, our life will be pretty uneventful. Meaning, if we're in a situation where we say no, for instance, to the sleepover, going back to the soccer mom, and our daughter, doesn't go, she's the only one, and she's safe. We can't play out in our mind what would have happened had we not chosen that. And our brains really want to square it. It's like, I need this validation to tell me what I'm doing is right, even though we know deep down, a part of us already knows the right thing. But when we're safe, then we wonder, gosh, okay, was it really that bad? Was it not? And so if we can get into a practice of just, I listen to my gut no matter what, it's what I do, period. I'm not going to know how the story would have played out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to know if I would have gotten assaulted. I'm not going to know those things. I'm going to be relatively safe in my life when I'm listening to it. When I go into the grocery store and I feel like someone's following me, which in my classes, when I ask my students, whether it's teen girls or it's women, I say, have you ever felt like somebody was following you? Every single hand goes up.
Wow.
At some point in their life, they have had that feeling. And so if I'm in a grocery store and I feel the energy of somebody else, that this guy, he's not looking for the mayonnaise, like he's in this aisle and he's tracking me, we know those feelings. Now, maybe he just thinks you're cute. Maybe he's just in the grocery store with you, Johanna, and he just thinks you're cute. And so he's going to follow you a little bit. And it's something a little bit creepy, but it's not dangerous. Well, you noticing it and you listening to yourself, one small tip to be able to communicate with this person is just to look and have this 2-second look in the eyes. It's not aggressive, but it's, I see you. Because if this person does have a bad agenda for you and will eventually follow you out the store and all of those behaviors, you seeing a predator and you letting him know that you see him will automatically take you off of his list of victims, because predators are looking for easy targets. They're looking for people who are not paying attention, people who are scared, people who are not aware of what they're doing. They count on that element of surprise. And if we turn and face that person and we can sit in that awkwardness, okay, I'm feeling that awkwardness, I'm okay. Sometimes I'll put my hand over my chest and I'll just be like, you're okay, Lori, you're okay. Like we'll ride this wave. It's going to go away. But if you can have that awkward, I see you, this person, if he just thinks you're cute, and he's going to go away so fast, because that's going to be, and you don't have to say, I see you, but I mean, just look at the person. Yeah. Do I know you? You just kind of have that eye contact. And depending on what this person does, if he's like trying to have conversation with you, maybe he's trying to get personal information. I cannot tell you how many times I've been in situations overhearing conversations where guys are trying to get personal information out of girls, and I just want to jump out of my skin. And most girls, especially teenagers or in their early 20s, they give out the most personal thing, where they go to school, where they live, all this information. And we need to not share that information. I was on a plane ride back from, I think it was, one of my things I taught, I think I was back in Kentucky, and I was it's a very long plane ride. And so I could hear this guy behind me talking to the girl that was next to him. And she was a professional. She's probably in her early 20s. And she worked at a university. They don't know that I'm listening to their conversation. But I'm hearing him, and he's, over the span of time, getting more and more and more personal information from her, from where she, what she went to college for, what her degree was in, and, how many kids do you have, and all this information. And then toward the end of the flight, we're about to descend and land. I hear him ask, so what town do you work in? Like what school is with it? She was an educator. What school do you work at? And I got up and turned around over the seat and looked at him. And that man shut up so fast, because I don't know why he was asking that question, but it was a vie for personal information on a level that they had, he'd been getting information, but this was a much, like, he could find her now. Mm-hmm. And so I had to risk looking like that weird woman, and I am okay with that.
I love that you did that.
I just looked at him and then sat back down, and there was no more conversation. It was like he didn't ask another question. And, if he didn't have bad motives, maybe he'll learn not to ask personal questions like that. Or maybe just if you're sitting behind me, I don't know. But it was really uncomfortable, the level of disclosure he was asking her for.
Well, that kind of brings us to being nice versus getting yourself into an unsafe situation. Because I feel like if I were on a plane and someone was asking me questions, just making small talk, I would answer maybe most of those questions, just being nice.
Yes. And this is where we have to think in terms of safety is more important than being nice. Yeah. And if being nice means I sacrifice personal information, or I give a hug when I don't want to give a hug, that's why I talk to parents, don't make your kids hug people they don't want to hug. That forced affection teaches such poor boundaries to kids that they do not have agency over their body, that they cannot control who they give affection to, it's a very bad message that we're sending kids. And most parents want to say, hey, go hug so-and-so. Go do it, because the mom is feeling that this other person is going to have her feelings hurt or have his feelings hurt. So they sacrifice the child so that they don't have to deal with the uncomfortable feelings inside. And so I tell parents, look, they're big people. They can deal with their own feelings. If they get their feelings hurt by a child who doesn't want to hug them, then, they have issues
that's their own problem. Yeah.
That's their problem to solve. So don't ever make your kids hug people, and for you yourself to have those boundaries and be able to say, I do and don't want to do these things. I give my students permission to ignore people. You don't have to have a conversation with everybody who tries to talk to you. Teenage girl, when you go to the mall and somebody asks you what time it is, you have permission to just walk on by. And that feels really rude. And we do exercises in my class, in my workshop, and we practice what it feels like in a group situation, what it feels like when people are trying to talk to you and you just continue to walk. In the very, very beginning of this, it's very much like starting to listen to your intuition. In the beginning, it feels a little bit awkward. It can bring up a lot of scary feelings. They're old feelings. As an adult, I'm feeling nervous probably at a very young age internally. I'm not really dealing with what's happening right now. I'm dealing with a pattern and a lifestyle of allowing people to cross my boundaries. And so it feels really, really uncomfortable. But as you practice listening to your intuition, as you just make that mantra, I'm going to listen to my gut no matter what, it's just what I do, you start retraining your brain. Same is true of dealing with people. I think it's really good to be polite. I do. But I don't have to talk to everybody who wants to talk to me. That's not me being rude. It means I don't want to talk to you. And I don't have to be aggressive about it or rude or give a scowl. I just simply keep walking. And girls don't feel like they have the permission to be silent, be quiet. Just because people want to talk to you doesn't mean you have to talk to them. I had this one girl, this was an early, and this mom knows I share this story, but these two sisters were in my class, and this girl was about 11 years old when this happened. So she was with her sister, and they were out on bikes, bike riding in their little town, and they had stopped at this fast food restaurant that had an outdoor eating area. And so they were hanging out with their bikes, and this man came up. And so this girl is sharing this story in my class, because we have a circle time where we share stories about what's happening and what are we noticing. And the stories that these girls share with me just are incredible, what people are trying to do to access girls. So she tells me this story of when they were outside, and this man came up, and as she's telling me, she said he was about 35 years old, this man. So this man comes up to these two girls. She's 11, her sister's about 13. And he said, will you please watch my bike while I go inside? So he's now given, and everybody in the room that's listening is like, what?
Right, right. 35-year-old man talking to
35-year-old man, kind of like the soccer mom with the male coach. It's like everybody had a physical reaction. Yeah. So this girl, I said, tell me what happened. She said, well, I wanted to be nice. And so I held onto his bike, and he was inside for about 15 minutes, and they were out at the tables in the outside part of the fast food restaurant. And she said, after a while, these other men started to come and sit at the table. So they didn't go in the fast food restaurant. They came straight to the girls where they were with their bikes and this man's bike. And they sat at the tables right with them and started making conversation with them. And they felt really, really uncomfortable. And then this man comes out from the fast food restaurant, and he goes over to where the men are sitting. He doesn't go over to his bike to get his bike. He knows these guys. These guys know each other. And so they start talking to the girls. So the girls still holding the bike, they're now in this conversation. So they started to make more conversations. So my little student said, I said, what did you do? She said, well, then we put the bike down, and then we just walked away, and they were still trying to talk to us. And I said, okay, tell me what you were feeling when he first rode up and asked you to watch his bike. And she said, I didn't want to do it. And I said, okay, tell me, there's no judgment here whatsoever. No judgment. Why, when you felt uncomfortable, why did you watch his bike? And she said, well, I wanted to be nice. So that's an instance right there. That is a snapshot of what we all face on a regular basis. She felt uncomfortable. And I said, okay, so let's talk through it. So then we role played the whole thing. And I had different people playing the different parts and things that they could say and things that they could do so that they could kind of put that in their brain of if that situation, when it shows up in my life, these are the things I'm going to do. Because everyone in the room and everyone's sharing stories, we can see ourselves in each other's stories. That's why story is so powerful and such a part of my program. Because if you can sit and you tell me your story of being in the alley, and I tell you my stories of things that I've gone through, it just highlights what we already know to be true. And it helps us move forward and not make those same mistakes.
Right. Just being aware of, oh, this is something that could happen. And now I'm in the situation that was similar to that situation, and I know how to handle myself.
Yeah. So being nice. If being nice means you have to sacrifice or go against your gut, don't do it. 100% of the time, do not do it. Always listen to your gut and always focus on safety and listening to yourself versus being nice. People will deal with their feelings.
Earlier, we were talking about teenage girls and having their phones. And one thing my daughter will say to me is, Mom, I'm fine. I have my phone. I'm okay. I've got my phone with me. And I say to her, if someone really wants to do something to you, that's the first thing that they're going to grab is your phone. So you don't have a way to communicate. Do you agree that having a phone can be a little bit of a security, but it is not the end all for safety?
Yes, having the phone is a definite tool. And I think it's a great thing for kids to have, especially when they're away from their families. Mm-hmm. But the phone will not substitute their intuition, their awareness, them listening to their gut, them being able to set boundaries with people. So it is a tool, and I think it's a great tool, but it's also a distraction. So one of the things, we had talked about social media and being careful on social media, and this goes to having the phone and why it's a tool, but it also can be a weapon. It's very common for people to want to, hey, are you on Instagram? Are you on Snapchat? All these different apps. And so I tell families, you need to be involved in the social media that your kids are in when they're young. It's surprising to me, but some parents let their kids have like Snapchat or things like that super, super young. And it is a very powerful connecting tool, but it can lead to a world of connection with people you don't want in there. So it's really important that parents feel empowered to check their kids' phones, establishing from the get-go, this is my phone, daughter. Yes. Or son, this is my phone. When they're young, this is my phone, and it's going to stay out in the common areas, and I'm going to check it. So it's not that I don't trust you. This is a parenting thing that I need to do. Just like I wouldn't just let you at 4 years old go walk to the mailbox down the street by yourself. Like, this is something that you're learning to manage. And as you're learning to manage it, I'm going to be involved. And as you get older, I'm going to be involved less and less, because we don't want them being 18 having the phone for the first time. Well, some people might feel that way, and I totally respect that. Some parents feel that way. But in my mind, if the first time a child has a phone or has time away from the parents is when they're 18 years old, they've missed some big developmental steps. So I think from the get-go, parents being able to say in the beginning, this is my phone, this is something that we're going to be using. And so that means I'm checking it and doing these things. And it's really hard for kids to understand when they're young, because they feel like, oh, you don't trust me and all that. It's like, no, I see things you don't see. And I've been in situations, and I'm doing this because I love you, and you may not agree with me, but it's okay. You don't have to agree with me. You just have to know what the rules are. And then you be the parent. Some people are afraid to be the parent, and it's tricky, especially when, air quote, everybody
yes.
or no one's parents. It's okay. You got to parent your way. You are responsible to steward what you believe is right, not what your friend thinks is right for her family. So being able to have that confidence to parent the way that you do. But having a phone, we talked about having a code. Your daughter using that phone as a tool for self-defense is great. One of the things that I have shown in class, I'll do it with you. I know your listeners can't see, but I was on a hike one time, and I normally never hike on this trail as the sun's going down, but I was hiking to go pick up my car that had been serviced. And so I was on this part of the trail. The sun was going down. It wasn't totally dark, but I had my phone, and I was hiking in this one stretch that you can't really see from the main road, and it's not super highly traveled during this time that I was hiking. But there was one little stretch, and then I would be on the main area. And as I was rounding this corner, I saw this man coming up the trail. Instantly, I registered, he's not dressed for a hike, this is what my mind was telling me. He's not dressed for a hike. And this was a steep hill. This isn't something you just go run outside just to go stretch your legs. You have to be on this trail on purpose. And there's a lot of areas or under a bridge and things like that. And so I grabbed my phone, and as he's hiking up, I'm looking around and I thought, okay, do I have time to turn around and run back up? And I didn't have time as he was coming. That would have been leading me into more of a secluded area. Okay. So I thought, I need to go back. And my gut, this is where we have to learn to listen to our gut, because our gut will tell us what we need to do to be safe. And this is Gavin de Becker's book, The Gift of Fear. Just to put a little plug for that book, he talks in depth about the gift of fear, meaning we all have those fear signals to listen to it, and it will guide us to safety. So if you haven't read The Gift of Fear, I highly recommend you read that book. But as I'm turning this corner, I took my phone, and I didn't even have it on. I didn't have time to call my husband. I was trying to get myself into this situation, but I held up my phone. And as this man is approaching me, I'm pretending that I'm talking to my husband. I said, I'm over here. And I'm waving my hands as I'm walking. I'm like, you don't see me? I see you. And as I'm walking, and I'm pretending to be on the phone. No one's on the phone with me, but this became a tool. Because if this guy had ill motives, which I don't know if he did or not, but my gut was telling me something about this isn't right. Yeah. What's his worst fear? The predator's worst fear is getting caught. Nobody wants to go to jail. So the more we do to highlight or to include other people in what it is that we're doing, the more they don't, because they don't want eyes on them. So this guy, it would have been really stupid for him to do anything to me, because he thinks my husband is just down the trail who can see me right now. So that's an instance where using our phone, and I tell my teenage students, hey, if you're in a situation, pick up your phone like you're taking a picture. Predators don't want to be documented. Sure.
That's a great
tip.
Tip.
While you're getting away, also use your phone in that way. I don't think you should follow people that you think are creepy and take pictures. Don't do that. But in a pinch, these are just tools of being able to use a phone. Having a code word to text you. Hey, I'm in a situation, or pretending you're talking on the phone. Hey, I'm just like 10 feet from you. I'll be right there.
Those are great tips, Lori. Thank you. Hey there, I'm going to jump in here and interrupt my conversation with Lori to tell you about the Sisterhood Experience. The Sisterhood Experience is a 48-hour getaway in Columbus, Ohio this October. It's for working moms who need a break and who also want to make a breakthrough. Lori Mercer is creating a space that's safe and sacred, a place where you can connect with other women. She's inviting you to attend an event that's too fun to be called a conference and too important to be called a girls' weekend. If you haven't heard it yet, go back and listen to the GTL Extra, a bonus episode that was released last week, so you can hear directly from Lori on what she envisions for the Sisterhood Experience. Or you can visit sisterhoodexperience.com for details and to register. I cannot wait to see what Lori has in store for us. Now back to my conversation with Lori Lara. Going along with the phone is social media, and that is nothing that I even want to get into for my 12-year-old daughter, but it's there and she wants it. What are some of the dangers? And then what are some of the ways that we can keep our kids safe?
The biggest danger for young people, really anyone, I mean, when you think about mental health, we know so much now that when people are on social media, it can lead to, people are posting these beautiful photos and it's a filtered life and everybody's having fun and smiling all the time. And what's wrong with me and my life? People take pictures of the food that they're eating, and sometimes it's just like these gourmet meals, and it's really easy to say, oh my gosh, we're having cereal again for dinner. So there's just the mental health part of social media that's really important to talk with your kids about, and just say, hey, look, you probably have already noticed this, but what I'm noticing too is that people post a lot of the fun things and they're not posting what's really going on. Social media is not necessarily reality. It's not necessarily reality of what's going on. And so then that comparison thing comes in. So just, this is all part of self-defense, is being able to have solid mental health. So realizing from the get-go when kids are young, listen, social media, it's really easy for people to feel left out, right? Their friends are getting together and they're not with them. This happens all the time.
We've dealt with that as
all
well.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're having fun and I'm home on a Friday night and no one asked me to go. That hurts. So we can be real about that. But if they know ahead of time, and for parents who maybe haven't had these conversations, their kids have had social media for a while, when they're young, limit it. And if you don't feel comfortable with social media yet, do not cave. Do not allow it. You have to be totally confident that you feel like you have a plan. You've gotten your brain around what you're going to do in terms of safety. There's software program that you can put on your kid's phone that track every click. There's a lot of research and a lot of tools nowadays for parents to be able to put on their kids' phones before they allow them to be on social media. And I think those are huge tools for parents to help their child to navigate this learning period. They're learning how to navigate their phone and how much time am I spending on my phone. So I would say training wheels. Yeah. That's a really good way. Yeah, that's a great way of putting that. You got to have the training wheels on first. We wouldn't just stick our kids in a car and say, go drive the car. We would teach them how to drive the car. So we need to teach our kids how to think about social media before we even allow them to be on social media. Because once they get into it, they're going to see it and they're going to feel it. But if they know it ahead of time, just like we practice all these other self-defense things, when I've practiced it in class where I'm safe, then I can do it more likely when I'm out in the world. When my mom has told me that these things are happening and maybe share stories about other people who have felt left out, gosh, now how I'm feeling is normal. And so they have context to their feelings instead of drowning in them. Yeah. Because when they're young, their emotions they have no perspective. They don't realize that middle school and high school is not really the whole world. Not putting social media on your kids' phones if you don't feel comfortable as a parent. Wait until you're ready. Tell your kids, you know what? I need to get my brain around this. And it's important to me because I know it's important to you. So tell your kids, it's important. I can see it's important to you. And I know you're saying all of your friends have it. And I hear you. I see you. I hear you. It's important to you. And I understand that. Don't say things like, oh, that's stupid, social media for losers, all those things, because that's not really what their world is. Their world says this is important. And so it is important being able to say, I see you, I hear you. And you know what? I'm spending time researching how to do this in the best way. I have some concerns, but I know it's something that I'm learning right now how to best approach this. And so maybe setting a time, like, the next month, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to research articles. Kirk Cameron has some really good content about this. I can't remember what the program is, but he had a whole film about it.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that.
I believe they have some practical filters and things like that, but there's a lot of research. And who's really a great resource would be other parents.
Sure.
Because we're all in the same boat. So, hey, you know what, child, for the next month, I'm really dedicating to really pray about this. I'm researching it. And we'll come back together and we'll have a touch base in a month about this. Or maybe it's 2 weeks. A month is forever to a kid. But take the time to really tell your child that I know it's important and I'm doing things about it on your behalf. And then if a parent gets to the point where they say, okay, we're going to do Instagram. We're going to do Instagram. There's nothing that, there are stories that disappear. Well, nothing really disappears and kids need to understand that. But, it's not like Snapchat. So choose maybe one that you'd feel comfortable with. Maybe it's Instagram, and then you have to be involved. As a parent, I say follow your kids. Make that a requirement. Look, we're going to try this. We're going to try this for the next month, and we're going to see how this goes.
Yeah.
And here are the rules. I have to friend you, and I have to friend all of your friends because you want to see what the friends are posting too. And if they're not okay with that, and you're not okay with them not being okay, this is all a negotiation. And then, little tips, like when they're young, don't let their phones stay in their rooms all night. At each age, each parent has to decide, what do I feel most comfortable? So put in the work to really research it. There are great tools out there that can help support this journey, but it is the training wheel time. And I just think that's beautiful how you put that.
Yeah, I feel like that's the point that we're at. And we do have rules. And I like what you said about it being a trial. Hey, we're going to try this and just see, because like we said earlier, this is the first time that we've done this. This is the first time I've parented a 12-year-old who wants social media.
That's right.
All right. While we're on this topic, I wanted to ask you really quick. There have been things happening in our community that have had to do with girls sending pictures. So I just wanted to get your thoughts and expertise on this and how we can explain how this situation could happen to our daughters And then also, how can we teach them the tools that they need for that particular occurrence?
Yes. So the photos you're talking about through the phone, even just texting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very disturbing, the things that can happen on phones, especially with underage girls and boys. And I've had moms tell me that boys at their church are asking for naked pictures
Wow.
from their daughters. It's very common. It's very, very common for this to be happening. So girls are going to get hit up. They're going to feel a lot of pressure to post attractive photos of themselves, whether it's in a bathing suit or less in a bathing suit, or even just presenting an attractive image, because this is a society of likes. And so I think, again, starting with a conversation with your daughter, saying, this is what a lot of girls do. Why do you think a girl would be doing that? It's so much easier when they can see it on the outside. Oh, well, she just wants boys to like her. She just, wants people to think that she's attractive, because there's power in that. It's a currency for girls. If girls can get the attention of boys, it is a form of currency. And so it's a form of protection. It's a form of power. And so you and I know that it's cheap, and that is not love, but it feels like love, and it feels good to the girl when she gets 400 likes in the span of 12 minutes of posting a photo of her in a bathing suit. So we have to address, can't just go to don't do it. We have to explain what's happening and why girls do it. And they do it because they want that affirmation. And that's normal and natural and human. There's no shame in wanting people. It's a very normal thing for a girl to want to feel affirmed. But in that comes vulnerability. If I'm doing things for the likes, whether you're an adult or you're a kid, when we're doing things for the likes, we're sacrificing a part. We're betraying ourselves. We really are. We're putting ourselves out there in a way that is not healthy for us. Anytime that we're doing that, just a little piece of our heart kind of breaks off. Not that we can't become whole again, because we can, but it will lead to emptiness. And it's really easy. One of the things I really like that's happening socially right now is a lot of these, what they call influencers, social media influencers, are posting these photos of before and after the filter. Have you seen any of these?
I haven't.
Yeah, so this one gal, I don't know what her name is. I saw a post, somebody had posted it, and I don't know how many millions of followers she has, but she's really big in that influencing world. Somebody a teen girl would look up to. And she was posting these kind of before and after the filter photos of what really looks like on a photo shoot versus what it looks like when she puts it out. And I think anytime we can be real, anytime that people can put out really what's happening underneath, it can be another piece of information that arms a girl before she posts anything. So there's that mental part of it. There's the emotional part of it. I want these likes. It feels good, but it's kind of like drugs or alcohol. It's a form of numbing. It's a form of giving to you in a way that leads to emptiness, right, versus putting out what you think. And this is where it's really fun to encourage girls and say, like, what's important to you in life? What are you even interested in? Okay, if you're into science or you're into maybe inspiring thoughts, like, think about what you want to put out in the world. Do you want to be somebody where people are consuming you as a product? Or do you want to put out your thoughts to really inspire and get people thinking about things or sharing things you're interested in? So even giving them the ability to see themselves and why people post and the power of posting. If you put out a piece of content, even if it's maybe something that is inspiring to you, the other day I posted this thing from Helen Keller. It said, although the world is full of suffering, it's also full of the overcoming of it. And that's something that really has inspired me in my life. And it's really fulfilling to post something that's going to help people in their life and encourage people in their life. There's such a great sense of feeling, and there's so many podcasters like yourself. You are bringing healing and goodness into the world, and your daughter's watching you. And so just you doing what you're doing and saying, I care about these things in the world, and I'm going to use my voice to put good out into the world, that matters to your daughter. She may never tell you, or maybe she'll tell you later on in life, but she's watching you, and you are the single most powerful influencer in her life is you, which can feel very burdensome as a parent. Like, no, but she's watching you work out life. She's watching you and how you present yourself. And even though in the teen years, they can often seem like they're in their own river and they're not even listening to us anymore, they are. And that anchor, they're still tied to us. And so even though they're going to get caught up in their friends and they're going to try on different things. Maybe they will maybe your daughter will post something someday that you're going to look back and just cover your eyes and be like, where did I go wrong? A lot of moms take the guilt for that. It's not your fault. You got to teach your daughter, but your daughter's using her free will. And so we can't own our mistakes and our victories of our kids. They're making choices. The best thing you can do is give her the lay of the land mentally and emotionally, why people post certain things, show her certain posts, say, gosh, how do you feel about this? And this, get her talking about those things, and then get her to have a vision for herself. Get her to realize that when she posts, she is putting something out into the world. Even if she has 12 friends on Instagram, she is making an impact. And what do I want to put out into the world? So it's taking that responsibility for our voice and what we say and do and post. And then, some moms have talked to me because their daughters have gone off the rails a little bit and they're posting photos that are extremely inappropriate in their mindset, or maybe a friend saw this private account that they had created. And so there was the main account and then there's a side account. Some of that stuff we cannot control as parents. And if we're doing our best and we're connected to our kids, they're going to make mistakes, and hopefully we'll be able to be there to pick up the pieces and help corral them back. But going back to the first part of our conversation, if they know that they're going to make some mistakes, when that behavior leads to emptiness, or maybe it just leads to this yucky feeling inside, that they'll come talk.
Giving them the space.
Yeah, giving them the space and that permission, that path back to you.
Yep. I love that, Lori. Thank you. We've done a lot of talking about parenting and giving some tools to our kids. You also talked about your trauma and the fact that you had a breakdown several years ago. What would you say to someone who has been a victim of trauma, or maybe they could relate to you in that way?
Oh, gosh. I would just say anybody dealing with any kind of trauma in their background, just put your hand over your heart and you just got to go back for that little girl in you. You got to go back. And sometimes we don't realize how big of an impact some traumas have happened to us until later on in life when we're safer. And I would say if things are coming up for you, I'll just talk directly to a listener right now. If you are feeling perpetual anxiety, if you're having nightmares, if things are coming up for you, I will say what my counselor said to me. She said, this is just old stuff. This is just old stuff, and it's coming up to be healed. It's not coming up to hurt. And when you've spent your life numbing and running from things, it can feel extremely scary to put your toe in that water because you feel like you're going to have to drown. But I will tell you, going back for yourself, getting counseling, inviting people into this process, just you yourself saying, you know what, praying about it and saying, okay, God, are you bringing this up? Are you allowing this because I'm in a safe place? And do I need to pay attention to some things and get some healing? Get curious about what's going on. It's really hard to become curious when we're scared. Yeah. And so for me, I was terrified to face what was coming up for me. I had so much terror. And a lot of that terror stemmed directly from experiences that I had. So a lot of the fear I was feeling as a grown woman, as a mother, was actually how I was feeling as a child. And so that's a very real dynamic, is that these are old feelings and they're frozen, but they can be healed. And when they come up, it is really not to destroy us, even though it feels that way. It is to be healed. And we can overcome anything. I remember sitting across the room from my counselor, and I just was in the most broken space. I thought I was too broken. I was too far gone. I had struggled too much. I just remember saying, do you think I can get over this? Do you think I can make it? I was asking her, and she said, oh, and she looked at me with these knowing eyes. You could almost see her replaying maybe the stories of her past clients and what she learned, and she said, oh, you can heal from anything. And it just brought so much peace to me. Anything can be healed, because oftentimes our pain feels like it's too much. It's too big, it's too much. And when we were a kid, it was. And so we had to get about surviving. And there's a strength in surviving. Whether I'm talking to a sex trafficking victim, survivor of domestic violence, anybody who's dealt with any kind of trauma, there is a strength that happens when we survive things. Unfortunately, if we just stay in survival mode, we will never experience this abundant life that God wants to give us. We have to address the pain. And being able to address that pain and have that healing come in and have that, the anxiety just to be able to be melted away through the process of counseling. And I will just mention really quick, just because if somebody's listening and they're just like, where do I start? Starting with writing, starting with a journal, starting with reaching out to a counselor. I don't even know where this is leading. I don't even know where this is coming from, but I just know that I need to address this. I will say one form of therapy that really helped me, especially with the PTSD, was EMDR. EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization re-experiencing. And I won't go into how it works, but the science behind it is connecting your right brain and left brain while you're processing and being guided with a therapist. And I will tell you, it was the single most powerful therapy tool that I had ever experienced. It just dissolved the traumatic energy. Wow. I would go in with a memory or a feeling that was like a 10. I'm almost at a panic attack. And when I would leave that session, it would be maybe a 1 or 2. And then it never came back again. So that's the thing is it kind of permanently resolves some things that are frozen, and it reconnects some things in you now versus when you were little. And if you had a professional therapist come on and talk about it, they could talk about all the science behind it. I just know it worked for me. And I would just encourage anybody listening, you can overcome and you can heal anything. And that's what God's intention is for us, is to live a life free and to be living in His power and in His love. And life is going to continue to bring us new traumas. And that can sound really discouraging to people, especially if they're struggling with depression or anxiety. But if you go back and you learn the tools of, okay, these are the things that I do, these are the practices and habits that I do when I'm struggling, I will work through it. You start to learn to trust yourself, and you start to learn to trust God, and you start to learn to trust your habits, that no matter what comes in life, I will deal with it and I will face it. I'm telling you, there are so many ministries that are hidden in trauma. When we talk about some of the greatest things, the greatest work of healing that has ever happened on planet Earth, when we look at those people who are leading those ministries, most of them start with this tremendous pain or this way that their heart was broken, and God just brought this healing and then this ministry, because that's how crazy God is. God says, okay, I'm going to take the worst pain you've gone through and I'm going to heal it, and we're going to walk through it together, and we're going to become so tight, and you're going to know how much I love you, and then I'm going to love you even further, and then I'm going to give you opportunities to reach back to other people who are hurting. There is nothing more powerful on this earth than somebody who's come through something that has a story to share that can help other people. It's just like, it just keeps giving to you over and over and over that this is what I know to be true in healing. And then to be able to have that vision, maybe for that woman right now, maybe who's struggling, is just to dare to have that kind of faith that you believe that that is true for you. I didn't believe it for myself. In fact, I would have told you there was no way I was ever going to be free from an eating disorder, that I was ever going to not be depressed. And I will tell you, I'm a walking testament, just like the millions of people who have come through these, who are saying it is true. It's not, the land of Oz where you look behind the curtain and you're disappointed. It is real.
Absolutely, Lori. And you're never too far gone. You're never too, have done something too bad that there's no hope. All. Yes. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, lighten the mood. I would love to hear about your favorite 5, Lori. What are you loving that you're wearing, that you're eating, or drinking right now that you love?
Yes, well, I love this question. When I saw this, I just thought, what a fun thing to bring to a conversation. So as I was telling you in the pre-conversation, gosh, I started listing and I had such a long list, and I'm like, how can I come up with 5? But I will tell you my top 5 on a practical level. Have you ever heard of the magic eraser?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so the magic eraser has changed my life, and my baseboards and my Vans, my tennis shoes with the white rubber around it. The magic eraser is a product that is incredible in terms of cleaning. So I know that might sound frivolous, but it's I love the magic eraser. I'm really into right now. Second thing would be grocery delivery. We've been having our groceries delivered for probably about 6 weeks now. And sometimes they don't deliver exactly what I need, but for like those big bulk items or things I don't want to carry, I can just hop on my computer and it saves me so much time. So I'm really excited about grocery delivery. The Nugo chocolate chip gluten-free cookie, as far as what I'm eating. This cookie, so being gluten-free, I don't know if you're gluten-free, but gluten-free and cookie, like those two words, like anybody who's gluten-free, they're like, I don't even believe it, because there's so many products that call it like a treat or a cookie and it just tastes awful. Well, Nugo has this new chocolate chip gluten-free cookie that is the real deal, and it's good. And
I am not gluten-free, but my husband and I just completed the Whole30. So
I don't know what Whole30 is.
Whole30 it's an elimination diet. So you take 30 days and you take out anything that is a known irritant to people generally. So like peanut and dairy and gluten and alcohol. There's a whole list of things that you eliminate from your diet. And then once your 30 days are over and you've healed whatever ailments you might have had that those foods could have been causing, then you add them back in one at a time. So
interesting.
And you can say, oh, this dairy is really bothering me in this way. So I have had some gluten-free items. I don't know that I've had cookies, but.
Wow. So how did you feel going through that program? I mean, we can talk about it at a different time, but I'm curious what your experience was.
Yeah, it was really good. I feel like the first few days when you're not sure what to eat and you feel extra hungry because what you would normally grab, you can't grab, you feel just a little panicky and like, okay, I'm on this terrible diet. But once I understood what I could eat, once I had the recipes for really good food, I loved it.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I would say I love my AirPods, my wireless AirPods. They have changed because I go on hikes and listen to podcasts, which is my last thing. Podcasts are my thing. I love going for walks and listening to podcasts, and the wireless AirPods have changed that whole experience. You don't have to deal with the wire, the cord. If I'm going into a light jog and I accidentally hit it and it goes flying out of my ear, my phone goes flying. So I would say definitely my AirPods. And then the last one would be podcasts. I just think podcasts you can find coaches in any area of life who are just at your fingertips.
Yes.
And all these interesting information. And whether you're into science, like I love science and neuroscience. And so I listen to Dr. Caroline Leaf and she's got great things about the brain and rewiring the brain and how that is really tied into our faith. So she's having these fascinating conversations I've never heard before. So I love podcasts. And I love that people like you, Johanna, I wouldn't even know you if you weren't doing your podcast. I loved the name of your podcast. I'm like, this girl is doing some really good things in the world, and we would have never connected.
Thank you. I know. I love podcasts too. And I love just the feeling you get, the energy from other people, and you can learn things or just be entertained. Maybe it's a funny one that you listen to just for no reason at all. And yeah, I love it. And as women, we are such multitaskers. So you're driving and you're folding laundry and you're out for a run or a hike, and you can do two things at once, which is amazing.
Yes. It makes drive time very productive.
Yes.
And then I found I'm really trying to be better at cooking dinner, dinner has been my nemesis all through being a mom. It's the 3 p.m. Oh my gosh, what are we going to have for dinner? But I'm really trying to have a meal plan, and listening to podcasts while I'm cooking really makes it, I'm associating goodness now with looking forward to cooking because I'm actually going to be doing something enjoyable.
Yeah. I love your favorite 5. Thanks for sharing those with us. All right, Lori, you have overcome so much. And I love that your message is just hope and redemption. And the work that you're doing is just so crucial to women, to girls, to me as a mom, getting this information to pass along to my daughters and to be able to parent them in the best way that I can. I just thank you for this work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
It's so crucial and important to us, and I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thanks, Johanna.
I hope you liked the conclusion of my conversation with Lori. I love her boldness and confidence in standing up to that man on the plane. My daughter and I have created a code now that she can text me. And I love the examples that Lori gave about using your phone as a tool. During the show, Lori talks about Kirk Cameron's video series. It's called Engage, and I've linked to it in the show notes. In fact, everything that we talked about today can be found on girlstalkinglife.com. If you'd like to hear more from Lori, find her on lorilara.com and at lorilara_official on Instagram. She travels the country speaking and teaching her workshops and would love to come to your event. Friends, would you consider rating and reviewing the show or telling a friend about it this week? I would love for more women to be encouraged by the stories of my guests. And hey, don't let the conversation stop when the show is over. Share your stories and start your own conversations with the girls in your life. I'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning in.